beautiful beaders, it's Gina from orchidandopal.com and welcome to my crystal cube beaded tennis bracelet tutorial. Now I just want to mention, if my voice sounds a little rough today, I don't normally sound like this, but I am getting over a virus. However, I just was really excited to film this tutorial. It's been something I've been wanting to put out for a little while now, so I just wanted to go ahead and do it. But I'm holding quite a few different color combinations of this bracelet, which is something I like to do when I create tutorials for you guys. I like to have different color combinations kind of already made up to kind of give you some inspiration ideas on what kind of color combinations you might want to put together. So a little background on this bracelet actually started looking like this. I created this first kind of prototype crystal cube bracelet when I was doing a video featuring the finished pieces that I created based on the January 2019 bargain bead box. They had sent a lot of crystal and rose gold colored beads, and I wanted to find unique ways to use them. Well, they sent these crystal cubes, and so instead of just doing a basic stringing project, I was looking for some type of bead weaving project, and I did find that it seemed like the patterns for bead weaving with cubes was somewhat lacking. There are a few things out there that I found, but just not a whole lot. So it kind of got me thinking, and I really wanted to come up with something new and a new way to share with you guys on how to use them, which is something I really like to do. So something that usually happens when I'm creating a new design is I start out with one thing and then I kind of perfect it over time to get it where I want it. And as you can see, this bracelet started out with larger cube beads. These were more like 6mm, I believe. And these cubes here in these bracelets are 4mm. Now, if you have 6mm only or 5mm only, you can still definitely go ahead and make this bracelet. Just know that it's not going to be as flexible. It's going to be a little bit tighter than the bracelets made with the 4mm cubes. Also, your cubes are going to stick up a little bit more. And as I had mentioned in the video where I was talking about this bracelet that I had made originally, I only had enough to do like both sides in the beads sent by the bargain bead box, and then I had to use some even larger cubes that were slightly different in the center. So that's why it's a little bit more wonky. However, I really like this bracelet. It starts out with ladder stitch on the bottom, which is a great foundation. And if you're not familiar with how to do that, we'll do that today. And then we just follow some basic bead weaving steps to get everything put together. And these cube beads become wrapped up really nicely and encased in this bracelet, and I like the way that it looks nice from all angles. So here's a quick look at what this bracelet looks like on the wrist. I think it looks nice, like I said, from all angles. It looks nice on the sides and on the bottom, even though nobody will be seeing that once you have it on. We will be starting out the bracelet with these little guys right here. These are called wire guardians, and I've spoken a lot in previous videos about how much I love them. They're really easy to find on Amazon. I will leave the link to different products down below if you're interested in finding out where I get some of my products. If you don't have a wire guardian, then you'll just simply start out the bracelet by making a complete loop out of seed beads, and that's what you'll connect your jump ring and clasp to. The size bracelet I'm going to be making today is about 6 inches worth of beads, or about 6 inches from wire guardian to wire guardian. That will allow approximately 1 inch for your jump rings and clasp. If you do want to make your bracelet larger, you'll just be adding on extra rows of ladder stitch once we get started that you'll build upon later. And you'll just kind of custom fit the length of the bracelet that you want to fit your needs. So before we get started, finally, here's a quick look at what the bottom looks like. As you can see, here's our ladder stitch base. I have done a couple of tutorials recently that have used this ladder stitch base. It's just a great basic bead weaving stitch to know, and if you've never done it before, it's very easy and we'll do it today. So don't be intimidated. Also, if you're new to bead weaving, this isn't very difficult, but if you find that you do have to stop and start over, don't worry about it. That's completely normal. Don't beat yourself up. Just keep going and just keep trying, and I promise you'll eventually get the hang of it. So now that you have a basic overview knowledge of this bracelet and my thought process for coming up with it, let's go ahead and take a look at the materials that you will need in order to create one of your own. Alright everyone, so I just got my tea with honey and lemon and kind of refreshed my voice a little bit, so I should be ready to go again. So to make a 7-inch bracelet, and again that's about 6 inches worth of beads and about 1 inch reserved for your clasp area, you're going to need some 8/0 seed beads. You're going to need 2 colors of 11/0 seed beads, and just keep in mind I do have a lot of seed beads right here. You will not need nearly this many. I don't have a gram count, but I will pile a little bit on my bead mat, and you'll see it's really not that much that you'll need of these materials, you'll need some jumper split rings. And again, I'm going to be using these wire guardians to kind of protect the ends of my thread and just to help keep my piece hopefully lasting longer. Instead of the clasp pulling on the thread of the bracelet, the clasp and jump rings will be pulling on the metal portion of the wire guardian. So that's the really nice benefit of having these, and they just don't cost that much money. You'll need some 4mm Q beads in my bracelet to make the length that I'm making. I'll be using 21. You'll need scissors. You'll need some jewelry pliers, of course a beading needle. I'll be using a size 10. And then my standby for bead weaving, my go-to 6-pound Fireline, and this is in the darker color, the smoke color. I always have either the smoke color and or the crystal color on hand to use in my beading projects. This is great for darker toned projects, and the crystal of course is great for white or lighter toned projects. You'll notice this does not say anything about beading thread on it. That's because this is a fishing line product. I do buy my spools on Amazon in the 300-yard very large spools because I use a ton of Fireline. I love this stuff. It doesn't break on me, it hardly ever gets knotted, and it doesn't stretch. So if you are interested in buying Fireline, I'll leave again links below. You can also purchase it in 125-yard spools and 50-yard spools if you don't want the big kahuna that I have right here. One other thing real quick I want to mention about the Q beads is if you're wondering where to purchase those beads, you can purchase them on Amazon as well, and I'm sure you could also find them in your local craft store if you like to shop in person. I'm a huge online shopper, and I did find this nice kit of 4mm Q beads that has all different colors and these beautiful AB finishes. This whole kit was about $15.99, shipped for free on Amazon if you have Prime or add it to an order that's over $25 in the US at least. So just wanted to give you an example of the kit that I purchased and the particular beads that I'm using. They're not Swarovski or anything really high end, they're just probably a basic Chinese crystal, but they are definitely nice and will do the job just fine. So like I mentioned before, we will be starting this bracelet by doing the base, and that is going to be the ladder stitch, which you can see that I've used the 80 seed beads in white for this particular color combination here, and we're going to go ahead and make the length as long as we want it, and this is where you can adjust your length by adding on extra rows of ladder stitch. For the length we're making today, for about 6 inches worth of beaded bracelet, we're going to need to string on 43 rows of these 3 80 seed beads together. And like I said, if you haven't done ladder stitch before, we're going to do it today. It's not very difficult, and it's a great beading technique to know. So let's get started. Alright, so all that information out of the way, and we are ready to get started with our bracelet. I have actually about 15 feet of Fireline that I have cut off of the spool, so this is quite a thread thirsty project, if you will. However, I really am not a huge fan of adding thread in the middle of my piece if I don't have to. I'm sure that there are situations where you need to do that, and I've certainly had to do that from time to time. However, if I can ever avoid it, I usually do try to do that. Just threading my needle here. And so what we're going to do, because I don't want to work with 15 feet of thread on one hand, and I know you guys probably don't either, but what I'm going to do, first kind of pulled my needle onto my thread and have quite a long piece sitting here next to it. See, there's the one end of my thread. We're going to actually start working by pulling our beads just to where we still have about a, I would say, 6 foot or so tail. That way we're not working with a huge amount of thread in our working hand. And that may sound a little confusing, but hopefully as we get started you'll start to understand what I mean. Also, if you're new to bead weaving, it might be a good idea just to watch the tutorial once through, just to see all the different steps of what you would need to do before you actually start to work on the project. So I've dumped approximately this many 80 seed beads here. Again, I don't have an exact gram count, but it's really not that much. It's just enough to make the 43 rows of 3, which if you want the exact number of 80s I'll be using today, that would come out to about 129 beads. So to get started with our ladder stitch base for this bracelet, we're going to string on twice the number of beads that we want our row to be. So we want our rows to be 3 beads across. Therefore, to get started with the ladder stitch, we need to string on twice that many, which would be 6. So go ahead and put 6 80 beads on your needle. Just like that, and then go ahead and pull them down, not all the way down to the bottom of your thread, but just down to the point where you've still got about 6 feet hanging off for your tail. So I've got my needle in my right hand. My tail thread is coming out this way. This is the working portion of the thread. I'm going to be going around like we're making a loop and then going just through those first 3 seed beads here on the tail thread side, and then pulling the thread, and you'll get something that looks like this. So again, your tail's coming out here, your working thread's coming out here. Now what we want to do is we want to go down those other 3 beads that are on the right. Okay, so just go down those 3 beads and pull like that. And at this point you have 2 of your rows completed. So you're going to pick up 3 more 8/0 seed beads on your needle. You're coming out of this bead down here at the bottom. You want to swing up and around and go down through those 3 seed beads on the right like you're making another loop, and pull. So you have something like this. Your working thread is coming out from this bottom seed bead on the middle row, and you're just going to go back up those 3 seed beads on the right. This just gets everything more into a straight line and tightens them up together. So now you have 3 rows completed. Don't worry if at this point your rows are a little bit loose and wonky, for lack of a better word, because it's going to tighten up as you do more bead weaving on the top and as you pull everything together with the next steps. You do though want to try to keep a nice tight tension on the beads, so don't have them be any looser than they really need to be. So coming out of the top of this row here, you're going to put on 3 more 8/0 seed beads onto your needle. And you're going to swing around and go into the opposite side of those 3 seed beads like you're making another loop. Just like that, and then go ahead and pull. Okay, and to complete that row, you're coming out of this bead on the top. You're just going to go back down through those 3 beads that you just added. Pull it nice and tight, and now you have 4 rows complete. We'll do a couple more, and then I'm going to let you go to complete the amount of length that you want to complete, and we can move on to the next steps. 3 more seed beads coming out down here. So we're going to go through the opposite end, making a new loop of seed beads. Coming out of the bottom, and then just going back up through the 3 seed beads we just added. Pulling nice and tight. 3 more seed beads. Go up through the opposite end. And then go back down through the seed beads you just added. Adding on 3 more, going through the opposite end. And then finishing it up by going down through those 3 seed beads. So that is all there is. So if you're new to ladder stitch, congratulations. If you've gotten this far, now you know how to do ladder stitch, and you'll be able to do a lot of things with this in the future, hopefully. So if you guys are ready to continue on, what you'll do, if you want to make it the length that I was speaking about right here, you'll want to do 43 rows. So keep going until you have 43 rows, and we'll meet back here and move on to the next steps. If you want to add more rows to make the bracelet longer, then you'll need to add on successions of 2 more rows. So don't just add on 1 more row to make it 44. You'll want to at least do additional rows in 2 row increments. So 45, 47, 49, have an odd number count, and that way when we do the next steps, things will fall into place properly and you won't have to adjust your rows by adding or taking away more later. It is important that you have an odd count. Alright. Alright everybody, so you have all of your rows of 8 O's strung on. Hopefully I have my 43 rows. As you can see, there are some gaps in between the beads, and that's going to happen. Like I said before, that's okay. This is all going to tighten up as you go along in the bracelet, so just get everything as tight as you possibly can. But don't stress if you have some little gaps that look like that. One other thing I didn't mention before is these 8O seed beads are not the most uniform seed beads either. These were from bbcraft.com and they were a more inexpensive option for 8O seed beads. They're not Japanese seed beads, for example, that are very, very uniform. That being said, there are definitely great purposes for those less uniform seed beads, and they work just fine in a project like this. I still use those all the time. You will probably be better off if you have the 11 O's that are a little bit more uniform to do the top portion of the bracelet. But if all you have are less uniform seed beads, don't stress about it too much. You can always use them in this project, and then maybe if you make another one down the road, maybe later on you'll invest in some higher quality or Japanese seed beads. You can try it again that way and you'll get a more uniform look. And as you can see, I don't have that many 11 O's here. I've dumped out a couple of small piles and I'll probably still have leftovers of each of these two colors, so it really doesn't use a lot of 11 O's. So at this point you just want to decide on your colors. First of all, we're going to be attaching our wire guardians at this point, and you want to decide what color seed beads you want to use that are leading up to your wire guardians, and also then decide which of your two colors you want to have as stripes in between your crystal cubes, which in this design would be the same color that would be going in the middle section of the side, and which color do you want to have kind of at the base of the bracelet and then also kind of running along each side of the crystals. So don't overthink it too much, but again, just keep that in mind because those are a couple of choices that you're going to want to make. For the design I'm making today, I'm going to be using the gold seed beads leading up to my gold wire guardians. And I'm going to have my gold seed beads kind of in the center and going horizontally in between these crystals, and then I'm going to use the dark green moss color here as my beads going along the bottom and along the two sides of my crystals. So let's go ahead and get started with the next step. Like I said, if you don't have wire guardians, what you'll be doing instead of using these is you're going to just make a loop out of seed beads. So instead of doing 3 seed beads, wire guardian, 3 seed beads, you might want to do just like 10 or 12 seed beads in a loop like this, and that's what you'll be attaching your jump or split rings to later to attach your clasp. So let's go ahead and get started adding our wire guardian. I'm going to add 3 of my gold seed beads, and then I'm going to go through one end of my wire guardian, just like that, and pull this little grouping all the way down to my bracelet here, and then I'm going to be going through the other loop of my wire guardian and pulling my thread. And like I've said before with the wire guardians, you just want to make sure when you're pulling your thread that your thread gets nestled right into that little groove of the wire guardian and not off to the side. It should be sitting right in here like that. Now we can add our other 3 gold seed beads, and then I'm going to be going through these 3 8-O's, the first row that we get to right here, and it's just going to pull everything together just like that. So you should have something similar to this, and again, if you're not using wire guardians, you'll just have one single loop of seed beads right here. To reinforce it a little bit, I'm going to go through this grouping one more time. So I'm going through those 3 seed beads and the wire guardian, looping around through the other side of the wire guardian and those 3 seed beads once more. And again, just making sure my thread sits right in that little channel and not off to the side. And then I'm going to go down through those 3 8-O seed beads right at the top once more. I'm going to pull it nice and tight. So again, we have something that looks like this, and we're ready to start moving this way on our bracelet to the more exciting portion of the video. So I picked up this blue and white version, or blue and clear version, because there's a little bit more contrast in the colors. But we're at the point now where we're going to be adding on our cubes and some seed beads as well. First thing we're going to be doing is, you see where these darker blue seed beads are? We're coming out again on the bracelet right here below. That's where we're going to get started. We're going to be picking up 2 of our first color seed beads, then 1 of the next color, picking up a cube, picking up the second color, and picking up 2 more of the other color seed beads, and kind of strapping on a cube into place. We're going to do that all the way down the bracelet, and then we're going to be coming back up this side, working left to right, and then completing one more step that's going to cinch everything together. So at this point, you're going to be deciding what color you're going to want for your equivalent of what this dark blue is. That's going to be my gold. So I'm going to start out by picking up 2 gold and 1 of my dark green, and we'll move on from there. All right, so I'm going to pick up 2 of my first color. I'm going to pick up 1 of my second color, pick up 1 crystal cube, 1 second color, and 2 more of the first color. So you're going to have a pattern that looks like this on your needle. And once again, we're coming out of this bottom seed bead of that very first row. We're going to swing our needle around, and we're going to go through these 3 seed beads, but in the opposite direction. And that's going to kind of strap our first crystal cube on the top of this bracelet. Make sure as you're pulling, the crystal cube and the beads you just added are sitting right on the top. And you can see it creates this kind of diagonal little pattern here. And we're just going to be completing kind of an X pattern. So I'm going to be picking up 2 more of my first color seed beads, which is the gold. I'm going to go through the second color seed bead that we just added, as well as the cube, as well as the other second color. And I'm going to hold that with my thumb and my forefinger as I pull so everything stays in place. And we've completed almost our entire second X, but we still have a couple to go. So you're going to end up with this kind of a look on the side where you have 2 seed beads kind of going up here, 2 seed beads going up here. They're both meeting in the center at this other color seed bead and going through the cube and the second color seed bead on the other side. So to finish that up, we need to add on 2 more of our first color seed bead, which for me is the gold. So I picked those 2 up, and we're going to go down through the first 3 8/0 seed beads once again. And that's going to complete this little X pattern, which is going to sit our first crystal cube bead right on the top of our bracelet, just like that. The next step in our bracelet is going to hide some of the thread that goes along the ladder stitch on the bottom. So to do that, I'm going to be picking up 3 seed beads in my second color, which is the dark green. And you see how we're coming out of this 8/0 right here, the first row. We have an 8/0 right next to it. We have 3 seed beads on our needle. I'm going to go down through the 3 8/0 seed beads right next to it, which would be the second row, just like that. And then pull, and what that's going to do is it's going to sit these 3 seed beads right here on the side, which will look nice from the side. It's also going to hide the thread that goes along the ladder stitch, just like that. So you have your first 3 seed beads going along the side. Your needle is coming out of the second row right here, and from here you're going to string on another 3 of that same color. And you're going to go through the 3 8/0s that are right next to that. And so you're going to end up with this little alternating pattern of smaller seed beads going along the 8/0s like this, all along your bracelet. From here, we're going to be adding on 6 of our first color, which is going to position a little stripe going right in front of this crystal cube. So pick up 6 of your first color, which for me is the gold. Pick up 6. You're coming out of this 8/0 right here on the bottom. You're just going to go right over the top, and with your needle you're going to go through those same 3 8/0 beads just in the opposite direction. What that's going to do is create a little loop of 6 seed beads right on the top that's going to sit right next to that crystal cube. Okay, so you have your first little segment just about done for what we're going to be doing going in this direction, and now we're going to start over again. So you're coming out of that 8/0 right down there. This is the third row of 8/0s. And you're coming out of that bottom 8/0 seed bead. Pick up your first color, 2 of those seed beads, just like we did in the first step. Pick up your second color, pick up a cube, your second color, and 2 more of your first color. So once again, you should have this pattern on your needle, and you're coming out of this row of seed beads here, and you're going to want to cross over, skip over this one right next to it, and go down through the 3 8/0s in this row. And just go slow so your beads don't get twisted over each other, but you should have something that looks like this. So you're starting your next little X pattern, you're coming out of this 8/0 seed bead right here, so pick up 2 more of your first color seed bead, and you're going to be starting to complete your X. So go through the second color seed bead, the cube, and the next second color seed bead, just like that. Kind of hold it into place with your thumb and forefinger if you need to. And there you go. So let's complete our X by adding on 2 more of the first color. So I've got 2 more gold seed beads on my needle. And I'm going to be going down through the row of seed beads where we started this next X pattern. So we're working in a block of 3 once again. So I actually have 2 of those gold seed beads on my needle, and I'm going down through all 3 of those 8/0 seed beads and tacking this next little grouping into place just like that. Okay, so this is what you should have, something like this. Coming out of this grouping of 3 8/0s, and now we're going to be doing our little beads on the side. So pick up 3 of your second color, and then go down through the 3 8/0s right next to where you're coming out, and pull, so those just sit right on the side of the bottom just like that. We're coming out of this 8/0 right here. We want to string on 3 more 11/0s in our second color, and we want to go through the 3 8/0s that are right next to the row that we're coming out of. And there we go. So we flip our work back over, and we're ready to add our next stripe, which is going to sit right here. So pick up 6 of your first color, and then since we're coming out of this 8/0 right here on this side, we're just going to swing our thread over the top and our needle, and we're going to go through the other side of those same 3 8/0s, that same row, and pull, and there you have it. So you see you're starting to tack on these crystals, and you're also starting to encase them, and that's what we're going to be doing all the way down. And as we go back the other way after we finished these steps, it's going to pull it together even more. So let's do one more together. Pick up 2 of your first color, 11/0, 1 of your second color, 1 crystal, 1 second color, 11/0, and 2 colors, and 2 11/0s in your first color. Have that on your needle. Coming out of this 8/0, you're going to be starting the first side of your X. So you're going to be going diagonally up and over and down these 3 seed beads, working in this little group of 3 right here. Pull it, let it sit on top, pick up 2 more of your first color seed beads, go through the second color, the cube, and the second color that you just put on, holding with your thumb and your forefinger so it stays in place. You have that, and now complete your X by picking up 2 of your first color and then going down the 3 8/0s in that little section to complete your X. You should have this. You can flip your work over, pick up 3 of the second color 11/0s. Coming out of this 8/0 right here, you're just going to go right down the row right next to it, all 3 of those 8/0s, and pop those 11/0s right into place on the side. Coming out of this 8/0 right here, you're going to put on 3 more 11-O's in the second color and go through all 3 8-O's right next to that on the left and pull. So you can see the base starting to take shape, and now we're going to add our next stripe that's going to go right to the left of this cube. So pick up 6 of your first color seed bead. Coming out of the bottom end of those 3 8-O's, you're going to swing up and over, and then go back down through those same 3 8-O's in the opposite direction, creating a little loop of 11-O's right on the top. And there you have it. So this is the same pattern that you're going to be doing all the way down to the end of your bracelet. And I'm going to meet you back here at this point, and we'll add our next wire guardian, or in your case it may be a little loop of seed beads, and then we'll continue on by moving in this direction to complete our bracelet. Alright guys, so I'm actually back before I finished doing my entire row here, and that's because I ran out of thread and had to tie my thread off and clip off the excess. So you can see I just have my tail thread here, and that's totally fine. So instead of having to add more thread on, it's just a lot easier to do this way. I'm actually going to take this long tail thread and I'm going to put my needle on it. So this is the same process that you would do if you've also kind of run out of thread at this point. And this is what I've been doing as I've been making these bracelets. Of course, if you started out with more like a 4 or 5 foot tail thread, then you may be able to make it all the way to the end of your bracelet. But I did want to use this as an example of how you'd go about finishing this if you did run out of thread right here. So I threaded my needle on the other side, and I'm just going to be weaving back through my ladder stitch back and forth. So I went up through those 3 beads, I'm coming back down through the next 3 beads, and I'm basically just weaving my thread back through all the way till we get to about the point where I had to stop with that design on the top, and we'll just continue and pick back up from where we left off. So just back and forth, just like that, following the thread path. And this isn't so bad either because it ends up giving your piece a little bit more strength anyway when you go back and forth through the beads multiple times. So there we go. Now we're kind of where we left off, and I would just continue with my little pattern here until we got to this end. You'll notice I also didn't worry about putting on my next wire guardian yet because we're still just going to finish the same process and then put that on once we reach this end again. So if you run into that situation, that's just what you would do. Just weave back and forth through till you get back to where you had left off and continue on. Alright everyone, so if you've made it this far, great job and congratulations. Now we're ready to put on our other wire guardian, or if you don't have one, you'll just be doing your next loop of seed beads just like you did on the opposite side. So I'm going to go ahead and put on 3 of my gold seed beads, and I'm going to string on my first half of my wire guardian and pull it down. Then I'm going to go through the other part of my wire guardian and string on 3 more seed beads. Alright, and now just like we did before, I'm going to go ahead and go through these top 3 8-0 seed beads right on the end to complete our loop, which will put our wire guardian, or this end of our bracelet, right into place. Now, just to make it even more secure, I'm going to go through that sequence once again. So I'm just going to go back up through those 3 seed beads, and then through the wire guardian, back down through the other side of the wire guardian, and through those other 3 11-0 seed beads, and just again making sure the thread pops right into place in that channel on the wire guardian and not off to the side like it wants to do. There we go. Now just go back through those 3 8-0 seed beads right at the top there. Alright, so now that your wire guardian is in place on that end, you're coming out of these 3 8-0 seed beads. Your string or your thread is coming out right here, and you want to go up through the next 3 11-0s that you get to that are leading up to that crystal cube. So go through those 3 seed beads, 1, 2, 3, just like that, and that's where you're going to start the next process of this bracelet in the final process of this bracelet, and it's going to cinch everything together and make it look even more finished. So at this point, if you're coming out of this 11-0 that's right next to that crystal cube, you want to pick up that same color seed beads. That would be your second color. You know how we had these stripes of 6 seed beads going across in between each of these crystals? Well, we don't want to go up through the very first one. We want to actually go up through the second one of those. So skip over that first seed bead of the beads, the 6 that are going across, and go up through the second one and pull. And that's going to pop that seed bead you just added right next to this other seed bead of the same color that was right next to the crystal. Now you want to pick up another one of those secondary color seed beads, this time going up through the seed bead that's next to the next crystal that you get to. Pull it nice and tight, and once again that pops that seed bead right into place right there. Pick up another one of your secondary colors. This time we're at the point where we're picking up the second bead in our stripe that we're getting to now. So again, skip over that first bead in the stripe that you did and just go up through the second bead. And there you go. So you can see it's starting to form this pattern where you're going to have 3 of these secondary color seed beads kind of going along the bracelet next to the cube. So we're going to do that all the way down this way and then back up and around this way. So it's a lot of back and forth on this bracelet, but it's really going to tie everything together and really going to make it look even more finished. So continue on, pick up another 11-0 in that color, go up through that 11-0 next to the next crystal that you're getting to, and pull tight. Pick up another 11-0. Now you're getting to a stripe. Skip over the first bead in that stripe and go up through the second bead. And this is exactly what you're going to do all the way down. So I picked up another 11-0. I'm going through that next seed bead right next to the crystal cube. Now we're at the stripe, so I picked up another seed bead and we're going to go through the second bead in that stripe. Just like that. So you can see the pattern that it's starting to create. We're getting these 3 dark greens here, 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 and it's going to continue that way all the way down. So let's do a couple more together. Picking up an 11-0, going through the seed bead next to the cube, pulling tight. Pick up 11-0, go through the second seed bead in this strip, pick up an 11-0, go through the seed bead right next to the crystal, just like that. So continue on all the way down to this end and we'll meet back. Alright, so I have put all of my dark greens along here accordingly, and I'm coming out of this second bead in this stripe right here. I'm going to go ahead and add on the last dark green seed bead for this side of the bracelet. And instead of just going up through the seed bead next to the crystal, I'm going to go through that seed bead, through the crystal, and also through that next seed bead. That's going to position us so that we're on the other side of our bracelet. Now we're going to continue on just like we did before. So we're coming out of the seed bead right here on the other side next to the cube. Pick up another one of your secondary color seed beads that you're working with, and then go up through the second bead in that stripe of 6 seed beads and pull. Pick up another seed bead. Now go up through the next seed bead that's next to that cube, pick up another seed bead, go through the second 11-0 in that next stripe that you get to, just like that, and pull, and you can see how it's coming together. So go ahead and follow that same sequence all the way to the end of your bracelet, and then we'll finish up together. Alright everyone, so this is our finished bracelet without the jump rings and clasp, and I have my little bit of thread left on here. I'm coming out of this bead right here, which is my very last bead that I had to go through to finish up what we were doing. I'm just going to continue on through this crystal on the other side and through that seed bead. And I'm just going to follow the thread path down these two gold seed beads to get down to the very bottom, because that's where I want to tie off my thread. I like to tie off my thread for my bracelet from the bottom because it's just less noticeable. So what I'm doing is just making some basic half hitch knots just like that, and then I'll be going through some more of these beads and make another little half hitch knot right here where we're coming out. And you want to do this about 3 times just to make sure that your bracelet is nice and secure. We're just going to go through these next 3 8-ohs down here. Make sure your loops don't get caught on anything. I'm going to make another little half hitch knot right at that point. And you can do this as much as you want, it's up to you. You could even weave back your entire amount of thread that you have left on your needle at this point, just going back and forth through those 8-ohs if you really wanted to, but like I said, you don't have to. Once you've done about 3 knots and woven your thread through several times, you should be okay. So I've done my knots. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to clip off my thread carefully, and at this point we're ready to add our jump rings and clasps. So I have my magnetic clasp right here. I got that from bbcraft.com. You could also find them on Amazon, probably in your local craft store. Again, I'm going to leave a lot of product links down below if you're interested to find out where you can purchase any of these items. So I got my first jump ring here. I'm going to do 2 jump rings on each side just because I know that's the size that's going to fit me best. And that's another great way of, adjusting the length of your bracelet, is instead of doing more of the beading portion, you can either add a larger clasp, or you can add larger jump rings, or simply more jump rings if you want to. And that will allow you to adjust the length as well, especially after you've done the beading portion. Maybe you want to gift this to somebody who needs their bracelet adjusted. You could simply take away or add jump rings or do something similar to that to adjust the size. So I'm just going to open this up, and I'm just using my finger and 1 pair of pliers. These jump rings aren't too strong, so I'm able to just use 1 pair of pliers and my hand to open and close them. If you have stronger jump rings, of course, you'll probably need to use 2 pair of pliers. And I'm just going to add my other end of my clasp right on here, just like that. So there is our finished bracelet. Love how it looks from all sides. Once again, I'm really happy with this color combination. Love the use for these crystal cube beads because there just wasn't a whole lot out there. So I really hope this helped inspire you and give you another idea and option on how to use these beads, because I know a lot of people do have them in their stash. And here's what the finished bracelet looks like on. I think you could really dress this up or down depending on what you pair it with. It's super sparkly, but not extremely thick and bold. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. As always, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here to watch and to possibly give this a try. I want to thank you so much for putting up with my slightly scratchy voice. Again, I don't normally sound quite like this, and it's been a struggle just trying to talk through this tutorial, but it's something I really wanted to go ahead and do and to put up. Despite that, please feel free to leave me a comment or question down below if you'd like to. I always love to hear from you. And definitely stay tuned for more tutorials like this one, more finished jewelry updates, and lots more jewelry making subscription unboxings to come very soon. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day, and as always, happy beading! If you enjoyed this video, I'd love you to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell if you'd like to see more of my videos, and check out the video description section to follow along on all of my social media handles, and check out my new website and blog at orchidandopal.com. Thanks for watching!